All right, let's talk about some real-world inequalities now instead of real-world equations. This is the same notes that you had from the graphing inequalities in 1C. I just wanted to bring your attention back to the words for symbols, where we use the more than, above, etc., etc. And reminding you that when we graph with greater than or less than, we use open circles versus greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, we use closed circles. So you may want to have this page in your notes readily available to go back to as we do these real-world examples, because these words for the symbols are going to come into play. So you do not have this part in your notes, but I want you to just use this to help practice with some of the words before we try it in the next section. So all I'm doing is picking, I know it says write an inequality, but we're just going to focus on what the actual inequality will be just real quick. So when it says at least, okay, I know it has the word least, but it's saying at least, so I really mean greater than or equal to that. So I'm really using the greater than or equal to symbol there because it's saying J is at least 26, which means it could be 26 or more. This one says P is no more than 7.8. So since it's no more, I know it's going to be less than or equal to. So it means it could be 7.8, but no more than that, so it would have to be less than. Okay, this one's a little bit easier to figure out. M is fewer than 3/4, so it's obviously going to be less than. Versus E is above 192, so it's going to be greater than. So less than and greater than are fairly easy. It's the or equal to that can be a little harder because it looks like, even though it says least, it's really talking about greater than, and then it says more, but it's really saying no more than, so it's less than. Okay, so let's try some examples together, okay? So we're going to write an inequality for each situation as well as graph it on our number line here. And just give me one sec. Alright, I got everything fixed, so let's get going. So it says you need at least 4 people to play the game. So let's write our inequality and then we'll graph it. So if it says at least, I'm thinking, okay, it has to be 4 players or more. It could be more. So that means I'm going to use greater than or equal to. So we're going to put X is greater than or equal to 4. So remember I gave that tip where you take the starting number and you put it right in the middle and then you can just number from either side. You don't have to do it that way. It's just a nice easy trick so you don't miss anything. So then this one is a greater than or equal to, so I'm going to use a closed circle and it's going to be shaded to the right because it's greater than. So this would be what my graph would look like. Okay, and again, thinking through, it says you need at least 4 people to play. I could have 4, or I could have 5, 6, etc. And I want to keep that arrow going, okay? Number 2, there are fewer than 6 cookies left in the jar. And so we want fewer than, that means less than, and it says fewer than 6. It doesn't say including 6 somehow, so it's just going to be less than. So X is less than 6. I put 6 in the middle and number my line accordingly. Since it's just less than, I'm going to use an open circle and I'm shading to the left. Now one little thing is, if my graph had included negatives, for example, I would not be able to draw my arrow past that because in this particular situation, I can't have negative cookies. I can't owe the cookie jar cookies. Not in this situation. So technically you would need to stop at 0, so you would just end it instead of including your arrow. But since our number line didn't go there, it doesn't really matter. We can draw our arrow. It's fine. Okay? But just so you're aware, that is technically how you do it. Okay, let's try 2 more together. It says you spend no more than 2 hours studying. And so we want no more than, so that means it's going to be less than, but it could be 2 hours, so it's or equals to. So X is less than or equal to 2. So I put that in the middle. So here is an example where I would need to stop because I can't spend a negative amount of time on something. And so I do have my open circle on 2. Oops, I'm sorry, my closed circle on 2 because it's or equal to. And then I stop. Now I know I put my arrow. If you did draw your arrow all the way, I'm not going to mark you wrong. I just want you to be aware that technically you could really only do somewhere between 0 and 2 hours. You could have part of an hour. That's why it's okay for us to mark in between. But you can't have negative amount of time. And so we would technically want to stop here. So I think on my answer key, I have my arrow drawn all the way. That's okay if you do. I'm not going to be that picky. I just want you to be aware that in some situations you really can't include those negative numbers or whatever it might be. Okay? Same with like if it was something where I couldn't do part of something. I can have part of an hour, so that's why I can draw my arrow in between. But let's say I was talking about something where I couldn't break it up into pieces and still use it, then I would not be able to draw the arrow. I would have to use dots to represent it, because this is saying that it represents any and all possibilities less than or equal to 2. And so that's why we draw the arrow. But if it was something we couldn't break it into pieces, then we would not be able to represent it that way. We'd have to give specific solutions. All right, then we have everyone in 6th grade is 11 years or older. And so we're going to have that or older, so that or greater, so greater than or equal to, so x is greater than or equal to 11. So I've got my closed dot shaded to the right. All right, now what I want you to do is pause the video, try these next two on your own, then you can unpause the video to see the answer. So go ahead and do that. I gave you a little hint by how to number it, but you should also try that on your own. All right, I hope you paused your video so that you could try it on your own. Like I said, I gave you the hint with numbering, but you should know that as you're doing it. Real quick, it says the temperature is 48 degrees or less, and so that means it's going to be less than or equal to, so we have x is less than or equal to 48, so I'm going to have a closed circle shaded to the left. Then we have Mike can throw the football less than 50 yards, so that does not include 50 yards, so it's just going to be less than, and so I have an open circle, open circle and shaded to the left. Okay? If you need to go back and take a look at something, feel free. Otherwise, you need to go get a quick check from me before you move on, all right? Good luck. You're almost through level 2.